Good evening. It is I, Ron Carr. It is my pleasure to be with you in this evening. A starry night, a new beginning, a blessing of many stars, kind of like this background that is going on in the picture of the medium. And as I speak through her, it is a beautiful night. And it makes us think of many things when you look out across the stars and you realize that these stars are all within the Milky Way, but there are many more universes than just the Milky Way. And you have seen pictures that show you the depth and the other universes that exist. And you can see the pictures that now show through on your telescopes. And can you imagine all the power and the energy that has been brought forth to manifest this? Now, it has been billions of years in the making, and God is not yet finished. We say billions of years, 5 billion years, to bring this forth into this manifestation. And everywhere there is not a star or a light or a planet, there is God. For God is everywhere. And the truth of that is more awesome than you can usually anticipate or think about. For although you may have been taught that God is everywhere, you never thought of it as a child. Yes, God is in the chair in which you are sitting. And God is at the desk if you are sitting at a desk. And he is in your computer if you are looking at this through a computer, which you are. God is everywhere. And God is in everything. For everything has been created and made by God and brought forth from the substance of his own being. He utilized himself to start this creation. He utilized the energy from himself, and he brought the universe into being. And think about that a little bit. You do exactly the same thing. You utilize the energy from yourself, from your thoughts, your mind, and you utilize that energy from your body, and you put it to work, building. You are using the substance of the universe, the substance of the earth, all the chemicals that exist, but it is your mind and your energy and the energies of others who are just like you, who bring these things into manifestation by combining atoms, creating new substances from the combination of atoms. And some of these things are a great help to you in the universe. But it all comes forth from your mind, the same as all these universes have been brought forth from the substance of God's mind. And as you are one with God in all ways, as your mind works similar to God's mind, we cannot know if it is exactly the same, or it works similar to mine, or everything is exactly as we think it is, for we can always have misconceptions or ideas which are not accurate. But it is still those ideas that give you the energy to move forth throughout your creation, your world, creating new things and bringing them forth and manifesting them. So in this way, you are very much like God. We are very much like God. When I am on the physical, then I am like God in that I can create. But when I am in spirit, I cannot create, but that is okay. It does not matter. But it is important for you to remember that you are very much like God in many ways, and to take responsibility for your actions, your thoughts, the things that you say and do, which manifest things in your world. If you get angry, if you are happy, if you are peaceful, it does not matter what the situation is, you are creating. You are creating in every moment. And if you can remember that and know that you have the responsibility to create perfectly, to create the best intentions, the best circumstances, the situations which bring about peace and harmony or great happiness, which bring about prosperity, which manifest love and share love with one another. These are all your creations. And take advantage of that knowingness that you are busy creating in every moment. And think carefully on what you say, the ideas that you think about, and know that since you are creating at every minute, know that these ideas may be manifesting, and you should create responsibly and well to bring peace and harmony, success and prosperity and happiness, goodwill, good health throughout the world in which you live, and the world which you inhabit. You create. So we create responsibly so that you can be happy in your world. Are there any questions on what I've spoken in this evening? And do you have any other questions you would like me to speak about or answer at this time?
Hi, Roncar. This is Tanya. How are you?
I'm good, Tanya. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if this is a question for Roncar or someone else that you have there, your joy guide. You can decide. There were at least 4 or 5 children in church this past Sunday. And I remember a Sunday 10 years ago when my children had gone. And one time, one of them had gotten a message that kind of caused somewhat fear in her, and Spirit World said that she was afraid to come back. So my question to you is, I used to work in a nursery at a Presbyterian church, and I would watch the babies while the parents went into the church sanctuary. And it was very common in these other religions to not bring the children into the church, but to have a separate Sunday school. Do you have any advice, or any of your guides there have any advice on if this is a positive thing to promote or do or encourage, or anything that I can do or the church members to help with this?
The church actually has gone through many times where they have had, to some success or another, a nursery for smaller children to come into so their parents could enjoy the service in peace without the child. But there have also been great difficulties in sustaining that from time to time. People would be showing up willing to babysit, and no children would be present. And then there would be children present, and those who had said they would babysit would not be there for babysitting. And so it was, it has not been created recently because there has not been that many children coming to church. The last person who was actually a preschool teacher who was giving up his time came several weeks, and there were no children to come, so he stopped coming. And this has been the habit or the history of, of that particular type of enterprise at the church. So if you would wish to start something, it is entirely up to you to approach the board of directors and be willing to do it or organize it. And perhaps we would be able to be once again successful in getting someone to watch small children at the church.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or any other comments on this?
So I have to say, Rancor, this is Samaj, that I may be possibly partially responsible for the young people showing up at church, because when I first started coming, as I'm a new member, I asked the universe to start bringing more children and younger energy into the church. And I can feel where Tanya is feeling protection for the children, because I too feel that possibly that the messages that come through can sometimes be strong and sometimes be unnerving for those that, knowing that children are newly arrived from source energy and knowing that they have an awareness from that which they came from, and being shocked into that awareness in an open forum in the midst of other people, I think can sometimes put them in a space where they feel possibly more vulnerable than they wish to be. And so I can completely understand where Tanya wants to create that protection for the children, to allow them to have space to flourish and to grow in the service and to grow in the church. And so I think that's a beautiful thing to be able to offer something like that, to allow space for the children to grow in the knowledge of what is possible, because we all know that children are great teachers for us in the law of attraction and the understanding that the universe really does revolve around them, because in the time frame that they are the children that they are, and we are the guardians of them, I see that it is important for us to protect them in whatever way we can find possible.
Well, certainly, it would be beneficial to the service and to the children to have a separate space of their own. But it must be up to those who come to church to create that space, and you will need to perhaps speak to those who govern the church about it in order to start this.
Thank you.
Yes. Are there other questions?
Hi. Okay, so my older daughter called me this morning. She's the grandmother of 3, so I'm the great-grandmother of 3, and she asked if I were available to drive to Virginia this weekend to see my new great-grandchildren, who are twins, a boy and a girl. And I was delighted and also apprehensive. So what I just want some reassurance that everything will work out all right with this trip to Virginia, which is about 4.5 hours. And she invited my son to come along, who is her brother, my son, even though he's unvaccinated, providing we go for a COVID test ahead of time. So I guess I want some reassurance that it's all going to work out and that we'll be able to do that successfully, to go and have a COVID test, say on Thursday night. And then we're leaving Friday and won't be back until Sunday. And it just seems like a fairy, I'm so looking forward to doing this. And I guess I want some assurance that it's all going to work out okay.
And your
And
son has agreed.
Yes, he would
Well-
love to meet his great grand niece and nephews, because there's also a 3-year-old, their big brother.
Yes. So as long as he has agreed, and you will set up your appointment or do a home test for your COVID to make sure
Or
you're.
we could go out, we could go to urgent care and get a printed copy of the results.
And you could do that so that you would have that, and then everything should go perfectly and well, because he will do most of the driving. That is correct.
Well, my daughter and her husband, I think, are going to be doing the driving, which is good because my son has problems with his eyes.
Oh, I see.
Remember, he
Oh,
has
so
the two
you have-
detached retina.
So who is driving you from, your daughter is driving you from where you live to
No,
Virginia?
we're going to Uber over to her house in Nutley on Friday. And then she's going to be doing the driving to Virginia. with
So
us.
your daughter is also included,
Right.
and that is the sister. So
And the
she's going to
grandmother of
visit her
the
sister.
children.
Yes, yes, how very wonderful. You should have a very good time. Everything
Oh.
should go fine.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that, it would all go all right.
Well, you have not been exposing yourself unnecessarily to the COVID virus, so you shall pass your test. And then with an Uber driving you, you should make the trip quite safely to your daughter, and your daughter will take it down.
Take the reins. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes, do have fun. Are there other questions?
Yes, Ron Carr, it's Elizabeth. I have been encouraged and asked to put together a small group discussion brief. And I was wondering if you think that this might be an area that I might be able to do some good in.
You've been asked to create a discussion group.
Yes, on grief.
Oh, on grief.
And I was just wondering if you think this is an area that I might want to put myself into.
Is your question whether you should put yourself into that area and try to become an expert on it, or to use your already valuable knowledge to discuss it, to use it further?
Yeah, I don't think I would be an expert on it, but I do have knowledge of it, and I think I would rather use my knowledge than try to become an expert at it.
Well, then your knowledge is actually, you're putting yourself on as an expert, or at least someone to facilitate the group.
Right.
And I'm assuming you would wish to meet at the church?
I'm
Or
not
would-
sure, but so another place also asked me, and yes, if it was something that the church needed, yes, I think it would be good.
So your question to me is, would you be good at it?
Pretty much, yes.
Of course you would be good at it. You have experienced your own grief. Now, the
Yeah,
late-
my problem about my own grief is I really try to keep it personal, because it's so overwhelming sometimes because of how much in a short time I've been through. And that's the biggest thing holding me back at this time.
Well,
because
you
I
would
would
have to share your grief,
Right.
and it would be good for you to be able to do that, because then you will be able to experience a cathartic effect that would allow you to feel calmer and not be overwhelmed by grief. as you have been from time to time. And so it would be beneficial to yourself if you are able to start this and facilitate it underneath someone else's, perhaps who will be sponsoring it. And they have asked you for that, and you can easily, I'm sure you will be able to develop the atmosphere that is needed to allow for sharing and support of one another in the group.
Thank you.
But you must be willing to recognize that that which you say is overwhelming to yourself will have to be shared for it to be effective in the group. You cannot sit off and not be a participant.
I understand that.
Yes. And so you will do well if the group is created.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Are there other questions?
Well, I just wanted to mention that I am part of a few groups for, I've lost my husband, and the church that I go to regularly in the neighborhood has a meeting, once a month, and I find it very helpful. And then there's another group that also meets on a different week. And so I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to share how we miss and are handling a loss of a loved one that we've been very close to most of our lives.
So you have someone who is encouraging you.
Yes, yes. And I also wanted to ask, I know he's around, and there are signs, really unbelievable signs that he's around, and has helped me in many ways. And I'm wondering, I remember talking to you about my parents, but there is an aunt and uncle in my life that were very important to me as a child. And I feel very guilty and sad that I wasn't as close to them as I wish I could have been, that I didn't know that much about them. And I keep thinking, I wish I had been closer and asked more questions. And my uncle in particular gave up everything for my aunt, who is my mother's sister. They never had children, and he left his family overseas. They were immigrants, and never had anything to do with them. And is there a way that I would be able to connect with them and talk to them and hear a message from them that they are together and looking?
They are both deceased.
Yes.
They both have transitioned.
Right.
To get in touch with an individual who can do a reading for you is really what you are asking me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would suggest you ask the medium. I know she knows an answer for you, but I cannot give that.
I see.
So
Okay.
contact the medium.
Mm-hmm.
And ask for that, or perhaps she hears the question. I'm sure she can give you the name of someone who will help you make contact. Okay?
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. Are there other questions?
I'm not sure you can answer this, but it's interesting. Samaj was calling in younger energy into the church and that children are appearing. I just had a job interview today to work on the maternity, the mother baby wing at the hospital. And I don't know if that's something you can comment on. I thought I could do both. I could stay on the bone and orthopedic and spine wing and do both to see which is more appropriate for my skills. And they said, nope, you have to pick one or the other. So it's kind of in my lap and I'm not sure what to do. Is that something you can explore with me, or is that too personal?
I believe your skills will be quite adequate for essentially the work is the same. Although there is differences, of course, because they are dealing with different situations on the mother baby wing than on the bone and spine wing.
Yes.
But essentially, it is record keeping that you do, is it not?
Correct. However, it's hard to mix up an adult with an adult because they'll speak up and say what their name is. And I'm afraid I'm going to mix up. They have 40 births a day, supposedly, and I'm a little nervous. I'm going to mix my babies. But I guess that you'll get used to that, right? I guess that's something.
Of course you would. And it's pretty
Okay.
hard to mix them up because they are going to be, what can I say? It is all going to be given to you clearly.
Okay, thank you. Thank
so
you.
that you can keep your records clearly. And if people are not being, do not use clarity when they are speaking to you, it is up to you to be responsible and ask. So
Thank
that
you.
you will be clear, but most things will be recorded down when you get them. I believe that is the way it works, that some of the information is already recorded and you just need to, all the essential information is there to keep things straight.
Okay. I do want to thank you, Norma and Ron Carr. Back in 2016, I got my first job at a hospital, and you had advised for a few months right before I go to bed to say, I have confidence in myself and my abilities. And you said to say it 10 times, one for each finger. And I would tap my fingers as I said it, which is also acupressure. And it came just as you had suggested and had confidence, it came and I succeeded. And I want to thank you for being a part of this for so many years.
And if you decide you would prefer to have mother and babies rather than spines and orthopedics, then you can use the same suggestion to know that you will do well on that ward and that situation. So you know the solution to making you a superstar. Are there other questions? Well, it seems to me that today all we have had is some questions. Is it okay if I do this? Will I be able to do this? It is important that you all have confidence in yourself to use that suggestion of I have confidence in myself and my abilities, to use that phrase anytime where you feel unsure about yourself, to recite it regularly. And in particular, before you go to sleep, at least 10 times, to know that you have done it at least 10 times and possibly 20 times. But however many you do before you fall asleep, let that be a mantra for you. And I have confidence in myself and my abilities will bring you to a point where you do have confidence in yourself. And you will be able to do all the things that you want to do because you have confidence in yourself. And that is important. It is good to share yourself with one another. It is good to make an outreach to others to try to help them in whatever way you are able to help them. But it is even better to have that confidence in yourself, to know that you are capable, that you can do anything that you wish, because the truth of the matter is, just as we have spoken, you are all parts of God. In some way or another, you have been created out of the God stuff. Through your manifestation within this creation, and God has already created that which exists long before you came into being. And you came into being still made out of the same things that that is God, because God manifested everything. And he brought it in such a way, brought it forth in such a way that it continues on its own for the current time, so that more people are created. And each one of them, each one of you, has a great power because you are part of God. You have been created from the substance of God's being. God's power is part of you. Just as I have spoken, that you have the power to create. It first comes into your mind what you would like to manifest. And if you then contemplate the best ways of bringing it about, asking that question of yourself, because you are one with God. You have that information already within you. You know the answers. You can bring them forth right into your mind and your consciousness and use them. And once you know that you have brought this forth into your mind, you can figure out how to create it, how to bring it about. If you simply ask yourself, how do I get this done? How can I do this? And you can tap into that power, which is you, which is God. And in that power, you will find the answers that you need, because you are part of God and God is part of you. You are one together. And as God knows, so those answers can be found in you. You do not have to ask me, will I be able to do this? Will I be able to accomplish that? The thing is, yes. The answer is always yes. All it takes is for you to decide that you wish to do it and to reach inside yourself to ask, how am I going to go about this? What can I do to manifest this? Is this the right thing for me? The answer is always yes, if you want it. If it's something you do not want, well, then the answer is no. I do not want this. But have the confidence to know that you can manifest anything that you wish and that you desire, and that your wishes are the same thing as God's wishes. For as you think, you are in agreement with God in all ways. And if you do not want something, well, that is okay. It does not matter. You cannot want something and you do not have to pursue it. You are not obliged to take any action that you do not wish to take. It is your life to create, and you have the power to create it. And that is what you need to remember in this life, that you are the all-powerful God of your life. You decide what you want to do. You take the actions that you need to take. You find the answers that you need to find. And you can do that by simply contemplating that. or asking yourself, how can I find someone to help me? How can this be done? I need help. And you can find someone else to help you to do what you want to do. And if you don't want to do it, that is all right. Or it is up to you entirely. And so make your choices and pursue them with confidence and know that you will be successful. Are there other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. If there are no more questions, then it will be
Oh,
time.
Ron Carr, I have a question. The confidence, did it take Norma a lot of confidence to allow Ron Carr to take over? And was there an education? I'm sure there was a process that you and that Ron Carr and Norma went through to evolve together.
Yes, there was a process. Essentially, she was given an invitation to join a group of people who were working on this. And actually, because she is not wrapped too tight, it was easy for not myself. I did not come in eventually until she was quite adept at doing this, but for Sister Constance and Rana to come in contact as one. And because she was willing and was relaxed and allowed it, we were able to begin to manipulate. Actually, not we, they were beginning able to manipulate her to the point where they could speak through her. And after she had been doing this for quite some time, after listening to that which was channeled and that which was the answers that were given, she developed and her own studies within the church, that she developed the knowledge and the ability. She elevated herself enough so that I could utilize her body and herself to give answers and to speak through her. In the beginning, this was not possible in as much as she was not quite elevated enough for me to speak. She was not as pure as she could have been. And eventually that all cleared up, allowing me to speak through her. Essentially, all that was required is for total relaxation and a willingness to allow it to happen. But not all can do that. And so, as I have said, she is not wrapped too tight, meaning it is easy for us to move between the molecules of her body and to begin to manipulate her speaking by essentially melding ourselves as one with her. Is that helpful?
Yes, and my last question then will be, do you foresee the future as always Ron Carr, or is there a possibility that it will elevate yet to add another guide? Say she's here another 10, 20, 30 years. That's...
Your question, Well, I will say that she will probably, there will be no need to speak with anyone higher than myself. I do not know how to say that. It is probably, that is as far as she will develop, and there is no need for further development, as I believe I will be able to handle the majority of the questions that come across to me, and I will be able to give clear answers through her. So I do not believe that there is any need for her to develop further, but it is not possible to stop developing when you are on the pathway. Your understanding will always increase because you will be able to continue to see more things clearly over time. It is as simple as that. You have a certain level of understanding where you are at your time in your life right now. And as you handle situations, as you learn the right answers and take the right actions to bring about the best in your own life, this is a continuous learning process that each and every person goes through, so that they meet people, they speak to people, they get guidance from other people, and also from books and reading. And those who choose to tune into this type of situation can acquire extra knowledge and understanding. And as they integrate this into their lives, they can easily run into newer things, more things, and they will just continue to learn. Just as you did not stop learning once you stopped going to school. Indeed, I know that you are continuing to go to school, but you did not stop. You always had more things to learn. As a mother, you learned how to take care of a baby, and then you learned how to take care of a 3-year-old, and then you learned to take care of a 7-year-old, and then you would learn to take care of a 14-year-old, and you learned how to communicate with your adult child. This was all a learning process. You continue to learn every moment, and a need to communicate with other people gave you skills at talking and speaking and understanding others, and you just continue to grow all your life. Now, there are some people who do not grow very much because they decide to be couch potatoes and watch TV, or do something along that line where they are not interested in learning and growing. So they do not progress too much, but in their own way, they learn about whatever they have an interest in. And if it does not help bring about a better life for them, and they are content with the life that they live, then that is where they are, and that is where they go. And they may not improve very much, but at some levels, something will always happen. They will fall in love. They will lose a loved one, will die. Their parents will die. It is inevitable. Or they will make a mistake while they are driving, and they will extinguish themselves rather quickly. But it is always a learning process. It is impossible to avoid learning in life. You can ask questions and get guidance. That is the best way to learn. Are there any more questions? It seems like you have no more questions for me this evening, so I will give you all my blessings. Good night. Hi, I'm back. Well, does anybody have a question for me? Since I was the first one, I was was the first spirit to speak through her. Are you interested in knowing what I said?
Yes.
Well, that's okay. It wasn't interesting. I just learned to say hello. And then it got better from there. Well, as nobody seems to have a question for me, I just remember, I'm going to say good night now, but remember, I love you all. Good night.
Love you.
Good night. Thank you.
I love you.